so I'm Michelle with Next Shark. First of all, congratulations on becoming the first ever Asian American bachelorette. That, really marks a significant win for our community. So
Absolutely, yeah.
congratulations. Great to meet you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great to meet you too.
Oh, yes. Before we do get into what the season holds for you, I love to learn more about your background. I know you previously talked about your parents and your brother, immigrating to the U.S. from Vietnam. But could you tell me a little bit more about what it was like to grow up as, a first generation Vietnamese American? And I guess what were some of your struggles? And I'm curious, have you always been in touch with your roots or, proud of your heritage?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And I will say that growing up was definitely a struggle being a first generation American. I grew up in a very white suburban town, so there weren't a lot of people who looked like me or came from a similar story as me or came from a similar background as me. And that was really hard to navigate growing up because when you're young, you really just want to be like everybody else. You want to fit in, you want to make friends. And so, no, I wasn't always proud of my roots and where I came from. In fact, I really shied away from it as a kid and tried to hide it because I wanted to be like everybody else. I didn't want to bring like the smelly lunches to school because nobody would get it and they would think I was weird. So, it was a really pivotal time in my life though because it's a time in my life in which I look back on and I kind of it makes me sad for the person that I used to be, for that little girl who didn't really have any guidance on how to mix the two cultures and just embrace who she is. But, I came to a point, I think it was really in college when I was able to be exposed to a lot more diversity and just rewrite myself. Like, I was really tired of hiding myself and who I am. And I kind of just realized that I am so proud of where I came from. My parents made such a sacrifice to come over here to give my brother and I a better life, and they worked so, so hard at it. Like, they didn't have a job when they were here. They barely spoke English when they first came over here. So they worked so hard for this life. And it's like I spent a lot of my life kind of hiding that and not celebrating that. And so I was really sad about that. And now I'm so happy to be able to celebrate that because I'm proud of where I came from, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for them making those sacrifices for me and working so hard for that. And yeah, I've come to a point now where I want to be able to not only celebrate it for myself, but for other people too. And I want to be able to inspire other people to also embrace their differences and where they came from, whether they're Asian American or if they're from a different culture and they feel like they don't feel represented. I want them to know that it's okay to be different, and that I really just hope that they're able to embrace who they are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
If you're on, I think one of the reasons why we all loved watching you was because of your, vulnerability and honesty. I know you also opened up about your relationship with your father. Yeah, and you said your mom sacrificed, right? And I guess eventually how being part of The Bachelor helped you communicate with your family a bit more. But I'm curious now that you're the Bachelorette, right? How has your perception or maybe your relations with your family members evolved since then? And I guess what does this casting sort of mean to you and your family, specifically to you, as a daughter and a sister as well?
Yeah, I mean, my family is so supportive of this so far. In the beginning, they weren't. My mom was a little hesitant for sure. She wasn't really sure if this was the right thing for me. She didn't really understand it all. And after me kind of explaining to her where I was coming from and what this really meant for me and for us, she really came around and is like now my biggest supporter in it all. And she's so excited for me. And she really just wants what's best for me at the end of the day, right? But yeah, I mean, my family and I both understand how much this means. Like, representation matters. We all, my mom coming over here experienced a lot of racism because the people weren't exposed to a lot of Asians. My brother grew up. He's 9 years older than I am, but he still grew up without representation, and I grew up without representation. So, for us, representation just matters. Like, we've experienced so much racism in our lifetime that we're excited to be a part of a part of eliminating that at some point, you know. Representation matters because exposure matters. The more people are exposed to something different than themselves, the less likely they are to be afraid of it or hate on it.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, and that's why this whole bachelor experience is like very important, not just for your family, but I think for like the whole community as well. But yeah, can you
Absolutely.
talk about the whole bachelor experience? How did you deal with all the attention from all these guys with completely different personalities, while also sort of trying to stay grounded and true to yourself?
Yeah, it's nice because all the guys were also different and unique in their own way. And I was really surprised by how many connections I had and how many strong connections I had with such different people. I think my previous dating relationship history, I mainly dated a similar type of vibe, and it was always someone who wasn't giving me everything I wanted, because of kind of just the way I grew up. And I was so used to working for everything. And so I thought I had to work hard at love too, which isn't necessarily true. So yeah, it was really surprising to see how many different connections I had with these men. And I tried to just stay true to myself the whole time. I think that's the best part, is my journey is so authentic to me because I wasn't trying to be anybody else. I really was just um, dating intensely, and dating for me.
Nice. When you were, first asked about what you were looking for in a man, I think you previously said someone with a big personality, right? Which, let me just say, I think the men didn't disappoint with their very creative entrances and introductions. But I'm curious if that preference has changed for you. And I guess based on what you can share, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned about yourself and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much. I definitely love somebody with a big personality. I think that I can have a really big personality. And so, like I said, I like to have that banter with somebody. I want someone to be able to match my level on that vibe, right? But along with that, I want someone who really truly sees me and understands me and is willing to make that effort and be open minded about, my culture and my race and all these tough conversations that I wasn't willing to have when I was dating previously, but now am. And so, what I really learned about myself was that now that I was dating more intently, I definitely had more of a voice. I was able to really speak up on what I needed and what I wanted from these men. And that was really pivotal for me on the journey as well, because it wasn't something that I always felt like I could do in previous relationships.
Hmm. So I guess based on everything that you've been through so far, with your family experiences, to your journey on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, I'm curious, how would you define love now? I think, like, what would you teach maybe the 10-year-old or the high school Jen now about love?
I would say that love doesn't isn't supposed to be hard. Love can get hard, but it's not supposed to be hard. And I would say that the only way to really be in love and to love somebody else is to let somebody in on who you really are and allow them to really understand you. Otherwise, if you're hiding parts of yourself, then how is the other person ever really going to know you and love you for you?
Thank you so much for your time. Um,
Yeah.
guess before I do let you go, do you maybe have a message to those who may feel like they're not deserving of love, especially to Asian women who relate to you and look up to you as an inspiration?
Yeah, I would say that, it's hard. It takes time to untrain your brain to think the ways that you thought when you were growing up, not seeing representation in the media, or if you were growing up in a toxic environment and you just never felt loved in some way, and because of that you don't feel like you deserve love, or if you don't feel like you deserve love because you're different in some way. I would say that the core root of it is like you do deserve love, but it takes being aware of the fact that you do deserve to be loved, and kind of just working at that every day and just untraining your brain and untraining maybe toxic traits and toxic thoughts and doing things that are good for you instead of bad for you. You know, I think for me, I at some point just had a click in my brain, and I was like, if I keep thinking that I don't deserve love, then I'm never going to find it. So if I start just believing that I'm worth it and I deserve it, then, and like kind of like having that blind hope, then at least I'm working towards it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely well said. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jen. I'm wishing
Yeah.
you all the best in this new chapter of your life. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
for you to see.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our chat today.
Of course, thank you, everybody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.